And off we go, Uncle saying that he's off to the store, and I don't think he's going to make it there.
What are you trying to say? He's not. Everything's not going to be all right. He'll be waiting for him when they get back, right? Right.
Maybe. Either way, they got a bottle right off the bat, which is excellent for routing in Kakariko, because you could check Sick Kid the first time you're there.
That is very true.
And we also know that there is no sword from Uncle, because he wasn't carrying a sword out the door.
All he had in his hand was some dreams and a coupon for Weetabix.
And his trusty walking stick.
Yeah, that walking stick has some magical powers. Kane and Brian is actually a pretty solid choice. It's relatively quick, and definitely an interesting choice as far as what the games decided to give them, because Kane and Brian is technically a progression item, but only for a very small few locations, so...
And it's also one of those weapons that can definitely go very wrong if you're not used to it, since every time you activate it, it takes a ridiculous amount of magic.
Oh wow, so the first item in the item pool is a single bomb drop, it looks like. So if Load picks up any more guard kills and gets his 50-50 drop, it should be a bomb, if my understanding of the drop tables are correct.
That does seem correct to me.
Of course, the guards that drop the small key don't count towards that, obviously. We've got some delicious synchronization going on here.
Now, one nice little quirk that you can take advantage of there is that the Kane O'Brien always pushes the enemies up. So you just activate it right away in that room, and it pushes the guard up to the wall, and they don't get to move.
Well, they can move desperately and attempt to not die against the wall. It just won't be very effective.
Still, nothing beats when you're in entrance rando and you get to do Kane O'Brien Ice Armos, and they just all stick to you like a magnet.
That sounds glorious. Also, I bet it takes forever.
It's actually shockingly fast. Also, poor Load over here did not get a bomb drop off that green guard either. He is losing those 50-50 bets repeatedly now.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but there's plenty of kills left here at this point. So we'll have to see how he fares. And meanwhile, we've got pot strats here for the ball and chain guard. Pretty standard for the Kane and Bryna start. And just 20 bucks in Zelda's chest. I think that's the second big 20 in chest that we've seen here, so that's awesome. And by awesome, I mean that's not bombs.
That is not bombs, which is much bigger concern to Load than Seven right now. Seven's pretty happy with that one he's got. He doesn't need any more.
Yeah, also worth noting that Load did use a bit more of the magic from his magic meter, so he'll have a little bit more. Honestly, at that level of magic, I would be worried about spending any more of it on anything that isn't the key rat. Because all it takes is a little bit of bad luck, or the rat running in the wrong direction, and suddenly you're out of magic to kill that final rat and escape that has the small key.
Yep, unfortunately, Kane O'Brien takes a lot of magic to start, not a lot of magic to maintain. Load on that first guard room cut it off just a little bit early and had to do that extra charge of startup. And hey, he gets his bomb.
Hey! Alright, that's pretty nice. So it does manage to get the drop in the drop table there. So that will even out a little bit of the RNG for the beginning of this match here. But SevenS1ns does have just a bit of a lead here on Load.
Yep, it's one of the things I've started to really like about this standard tournament is being able to get that little chunk of pure execution starting. You can kind of get a feel for both runners from the get-go that way.
Oh yeah, agreed. Alright, so Load opting to run over and pick up the magic refills here. Honestly, not a terrible play. The last thing you want to do is get all the way to the portion of that rat that has a small key and run out of magic. So, and it looks like SevenS1ns did pick up yet another bomb drop. So that'll make routing in Kakariko just a little bit nicer.
And he has pushed his magic very low. I think that's enough to activate the cane for a moment.
Yeah, you have to be like right next to the rat. You might have like 30 frames to move. Oh, that had to have been the very last portion of activation for Cane of Bryna there. SevenS1ns knows exactly where the margins are in that Cane of Bryna and is living on them.
I give him major props for knowing he could take that low, because I wasn't honestly sure.
Yeah, I'm actually straight up impressed. And he's rewarded by an instruction booklet that says how to maximize Cane of Bryna mana efficiency. But he's not going to stop to read it because clearly he already knows. He actually wrote that book. I don't know why he put it in that portion of his game.
It's got to be disappointing. You write a book and somebody gives you a gift, and no, it's just that book I wrote. I'm pretty sure I know this one already.
Yes. Well, it's a compliment, right? They purchased your book. They're supporting your small business.
I guess you could take it that way.
Hey, you always look on the bright side. Oh wow! So we got Power Glove and the Book of Medora both in Escape. If we find like boots and some kind of fire source in Kakariko, that just screams desert.
Yeah, I'd say it already screams desert, but until they get that fire source in particular, I would probably try to hold off at least.
Yeah, it's always tough because you don't know if the torch in desert that is boots locked is going to be required for actually completing the dungeon. Oh wow, tree pull is 8 bombs. That is a sweet grab right there. That'll make routing in Kakariko a little bit easier. You don't have to spend any money on bombs.
And full magic from the crab. The
Wow.
randomized drop pools from those two are quite wonderful.
Yeah, that's about the best you could have asked for. I did not quite catch what was in that. Did you see that, Mentos, man?
I did not catch it either. I'm going to try to catch it on the restream right now.
Meanwhile, Load opting not to check the crab, so he will be stuck with no magic.
It was a single arrow on the lumberjack tree, so I'm pretty confident they're not going to go and get that.
Yeah, that's not worth going back for.
I mean, there might be some fringe situation where it could be worth the time in a weird alternate universe.
I guess if you're going for meme strats, maybe. And I could respect that, but you would deserve your 5-minute time loss right there. Wow, so the Lost Woods area just full of arrows. And SevenS1ns has taken enough damage that we're going to have to listen to heart beeps through a good majority of Kakariko, so thanks for that, SevenS1ns.
And we did get a map check with 3, 6, 7 down the line of dungeons, 3 in Tower of Hera, 6 in Eastern Palace, and 7 in Desert, so optimal map there with 3 crystals in the Light World.
Oh wow, Load is pleasing the crowd. We are already at 8 minutes and 30 seconds getting a pedestal check. Hold on to your butts, guys.
He's just going to go right ahead and kill this hype immediately, isn't he?
Oh, and it's a bigger quiver. So, you know what? In terms of jet seeds, we're doing pretty good. We got 3 crystals in the light world. The pedestal is dead. And Aghanim could technically be required, but the odds are about as low as they can get this early in the game.
And we just got that Bombos Medallion and Blind's Hut, so they can do some Fire Rodless Ice Palace. It's looking good.
But yeah, that's a pretty early on murdering of the hype right there. I like it.
I do enjoy going to check the pedestal with the early book, just so you have that information right away. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, it's the kind of play I feel like you would make in a one-on-one tournament situation, because that could have potentially given Load just a huge knowledge lead. It still does a little bit, because if you're in a situation when you're in a pendant dungeon and you've already found all the items and you don't have to kill the boss, you already know that, if the boss doesn't have an item, he's not worth killing. Also, we didn't mention it, but the mirror in the Kakariko well there is a great find for speeding up routing in the mid-game.
Yep, and after my race last night, I'm kind of jealous of that nice early mirror.
Yeah, the mirror is just great. It lets you combine light and dark world check locations. Also, you can check and see if that zit on your face has gone away. It's multi-purpose.
Truly the most versatile item in the game.
I feel like that if you're outdoors, you should be able to use the mirror to start a fire. Wait, no, that's a magnifying glass. Never mind. Wrong Zelda game. Sorry, everybody.
Well, we get an ether medallion as well, so 66% chance that we've already got medallions covered, and we just got out of Kakariko.
If anything, that just makes me more nervous that Quake is going to be required for something. So just a severed human heart in the library. That's weird, but not required.
I'm gonna go check the race game before going through it, and it's the first sword, so SevenS1ns is like, no, I want that.
Yeah, yeah, that's worth going back for, in general, I think.
I mean, it's made of plastic, but it's better than nothing.
Oh yeah. Plus, you get to do some sweet vandalism to these two feuding brothers' houses, so that's always worth it. We're all about building bridges here in the randomizer between, broken families.
So with all this stuff, they still really don't have anywhere in particular to go. Like they could go to desert that they can't full clear right now. Nothing really pointing them anywhere in specific, so probably just gonna go standard down to South Shore.
It wouldn't be crazy to me to have somebody swing over to Generous Sky or Mini Molderum Cave first, and then do the dam, and then head over to the desert area. Like, that would not be crazy to me, but it's definitely risky, because if you go into desert without a fire source, you 100% for sure can't clear it. Whereas if you go in there without boots, you might be able to clear it without the boots.
Of course, you hope the desert is required early and boots locked. That is a dream every time you get early access and it's a crystal.
Yeah, that's always very nice. Alright, let's see what's in the dam. Useless monies.
Somebody confused the reservoir as a wishing well.
Well, they did throw very on flavor rupees, though, in the water with the blue rupee. I can appreciate that attention to detail.
Well, the wish won't come true if the coin's taken out of there, so you make sure it's the same color as the water so people can't see it.
Oh, that's genius. So you have to save all of your big 20s for, like, the blood wishing well? That's creepy. I'm not sure I support that.
Yeah, that sounds kind of horrifying. But that Bombo strat on Mini Moldorm there was nice and satisfying. Just nope, bye guys.
Although I do believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Ether will actually kill the Mini Moldorms and does have a slightly faster animation. But, I can respect wanting to burn those guys alive, because I think Mini Moldorms are, like, number 2 on the most annoying non-boss enemies in this game.
Yeah, I'm assuming number 1 is Dead Rocks.
You assumed correctly. I hate those guys. I hate them so much.
I figured you could probably make a case for crabs, but...
Yeah, crabs are definitely annoying, both in-game and out, but they tend to be a lot less annoying the more equipped you are, and they are manageable if you take your time. Whereas Dead Rocks can mess your day up no matter how well equipped you are, and no matter how well you try to handle their RNG. I'm getting angry just talking about them.
So in the meantime, SevenS1ns has decided to go up to Ice Rod Cave, which sometimes pays off, and today is not one of those times.
No, that is unfortunate. Now, without Moon Pearl, and without Zora money, Fake Flippers is about as unincentivized as you can get it to be right now. If you were to Fake Flipper right now, you could check the Hobo item and take a look at the Lake Hylia item, And that's about it. Without Moon Pearl or Boots, you can't check the Waterfall of Wishing, and you don't have the money for Zora. It is worth noting, however, that Zora is in Logic right now with the Power Gloves.
The good old vanilla route to Zora that tons of people forget exists.
Yep. Also, SevenS1ns very expertly pulled off the no setup. He just man mode walked up to the pixel to set up the fake flipper with a sword slash. That was impressive.
Load deciding to not waste his time going over to Ice Rod Cave, headed straight over to the desert area.
Yeah, he'll be rewarded for not skipping, or rather for skipping Ice Rod Cave.
Until we're an hour and a half in, still looking for a go mode, and you're like, do I really have to go back to Ice Rod Cave now?
Yep. Although Ice Rod Cave does get faster to check if you have both if you have both the boots and the flute. I was getting confused about which footwear item I was wanting to talk about.
Okay, and I get SevenS1ns fake flippering now.
Yeah, heading up to Eastern. Not a terrible play. There are certainly a lot of items in Sahashula's garage. And it looks like his twin brother was not hiding anything important in his cave.
Just a hostage in a bottle.
Alright, so nothing much in Sahashula's garage. I'm afraid I was not watching Load's side. Was there anything on the desert ledge there? Or did I just throw you under the bus?
It was just a piece of heart.
Alright, good. I plan on throwing you under the bus a few times on commentary, but that was not one of the intentional times.
That's fair. I'll do my best to be prepared for the bus.
Yeah, put on your helmet. Get that Kevlar jacket going. Alright, so we've got some pretty interesting route divergence here. Both of these dungeons are crystal-required dungeons. And wow, so because of that chest right there was not either a small or big key, Desert is boots locked one way or another. So Load does actually have quite a bit of knowledge. He does know that the pedestal is not required, does know that Desert is boots locked.
Yep, and the latter of which, depending on where the boots are, Seven might make his way over there before having them. Or they could be in this next chest, and then it's all moot, and he's just going to go over there once, and everything's going to be great for him.
That's the beauty of Randomizer, my friend.
Unfortunately, he just gets a map, and nobody wants a map outside of Key Sanity.
Nope. Although, as is often pointed out, it does sort of look like a burrito. And it is approaching lunchtime in my part of the world. So now I'm hungry. Thanks, SevenS1ns.
Well, prepare for up to 9 more of those.
Plus or minus. Also, Load did take the time to talk to Sahashula there. It looks like we've got ourselves a green pendant swamp palace. Meanwhile, SevenS1ns picking up those silver arrows. Those are always super nice to find.
Yep, as long as you find the bow too. If you find the silvers and don't find the bow for a long time, then they just kind of taunt you up there at the top of the screen.
That is very true. Still nice to find, though. I feel like you should be able to, like, throw the silver arrows almost like darts or something. There's got to be a way to make that work.
I fully support that idea.
I also fully support the darkroom strats that SevenS1ns is doing here. Worth noting that this item that he is about to pick up is outside of the logic, since he technically doesn't have the lantern yet.
Yep, and shoutouts for doing that without using the sword light to guide him. They are pretty much the easiest darkrooms in the game, but doing any of them blind takes quite a bit of practice.
Agreed. So now we've got Armos Knights are not finishable right now because we don't have the bow. And this big key chest either has the compass or an item. So this is a pretty interesting 50-50 we're about to see here.
You know, given the logic restrictions, I'm beginning to think that there are some flippers.
Oh, wow. So that is outside of logic flippers, and to SevenS1ns' credit, he has already routed in the hobo checks. So I'm curious where he's going to go from here.
I was just about to say, I think in logic, Zora and the mushroom check are pretty much all we got left that we haven't seen. So
I believe you're correct.
maybe we're gonna get some rupee farming fun times.
Yeah, with the flippers in your possession, that makes a couple of the Houlihan room setups not available. But with power gloves and bombs, you can do the old back of escape bomb setup trick if you want to use Houlihan room to get your Zora money.
And SevenS1ns taking this long walk from Eastern Palace to the Witch. The quickest way is definitely if he had saved and quit to the house. There is a whirlpool just south of the house that you can use. It takes you out right by the Witch up here. So SevenS1ns, for future reference, next time you need to make that trip, that's usually the quickest way to go there.
True. You could have also saved and quit the Sanctuary and then done a Houlihan room to get money and then gone back up. But oh wow, oh no, we've reached partial Aghanim. Although no Lantern, no Moon Pearl, the odds are still pretty low.
They're definitely getting higher though. We're 2 items away from one item away from Aghanim, 2 items away from Dark World access without Aghanim. So
that's always the case. When there's nothing good in the lumberjack tree, that's when you have to do Aghanim for Dark World access because the game hates you. All right, time to see if this outside of logic flipper check is going to yield any fruit here.
$40. You could probably buy some fruit with that.
Yeah, I guess they, red rupees sort of look like a weird-looking strawberry or slice of watermelon. All right, so SevenS1ns is going to the Zora area just to check the Zora ledge item. Won't have the money to pay off Zora. Oh, well, I guess he's got the money now.
That works out.
Wow, that was like the dream right there. So that's actually a pretty good time save. Houlihan room is relatively quick in terms of like getting money as fast as possible, but it still does take time. So opting to go up here actually did pay off. So thanks for making me look like a blundering idiot, SevenS1ns. Not that I typically need the help.
Now, if Zora has the lamp, which is kind of what I expect, you don't make the Aghanim play right away. You're probably headed up Death Mountain. You can clear all the way through Hera. You can check the Ether Tablet. There's a lot of chances left for other items if he gives the lamp.
Oh, this is good. Keep telling me how unlikely it is that we'll have to do Aghanim.
And then you'll get your hammer and your Titan's mid. And that'll be all you get.
Perfect.
Just be sad.
Well, it's like the best bedtime story ever, except it's, not bedtime. All right, meanwhile, SevenS1ns is continuing his lap around Zora's domain.
Load now, going over to Ice Rod Cave, gonna check this anyway. It's the flute. That's kind of essentially like the lamp would have been, just without the Aga implications.
So it even better, actually, now that I think about it. Worth noting, though, that this is still all off logic because of no lantern.
Well, no, that flute was in logic. They had the glove for that.
Oh, wait, yes. Yeah, thank you. Haha, you passed my test. Well done, sir. So SevenS1ns is just enjoying pressing items unnecessarily. We were getting treated to some excellent mirror spam earlier, and now he's just trying to play us the song of his people.
It's a pretty good song for his people. I support it.
Yeah, I didn't know the Koopa family was a big fan of flute music. I guess they're all secret flautists.
And now I'm picturing Bowser playing a flute, and I'm kind of happy about that.
It's solid. Speaking of solid, excellent Swag Duck anthem there. Chat is saluting, as would be expected. This is where SevenS1ns' kind of choice in order of routing is definitely helping him out. Because the places that he opted to check places like Ice Rod Cave and a few other locations when it was slightly more convenient. So Load is just a little bit behind in terms of ground covered. But Load will end up having to make the same double lap around Zora's domain, because he made the same gamble that SevenS1ns did as far as Zora money.
Ironically, even if he had done Houlihan, he would have ended up 3 rupees short, so turns out pretty positive for him.
Alright, so SevenS1ns is heading towards desert area instead of taking the flute to Death Mountain. So if SevenS1ns opts to go into desert, Load will pick up some time since he has already been in there. But I am once again immediately proven wrong by SevenS1ns' routing choices. So, and honestly, it's probably a smart move. Going into desert without a fire source or boots is a little tough.
Great, and now Seven is going through the dark here to help out the old man who lost his lantern. Link lost his too, but he's fine with the dark.
Yeah, it always didn't make a lot of sense to me. In vanilla, you know, he's in there with a mirror, an item that depends on a light source to function. What's he doing by himself in a dark cave with a mirror? It's weird.
You know, he was hoping that it was a dungeon, so it would take him back to the entrance, and it just didn't work out. And this time he's got a shovel in there. He was trying to dig his way out of the cave.
He's... Wow. So, strange old men hiding in caves by themselves with a shovel. That's not weird. That's not weird at all. I wouldn't go into that old man to any sort of parties in the woods. You might get your head whacked with a shovel and buried. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Top of Spectacle Rock with 3 bombs doesn't really matter. And inside Spectacle Rock with another 3 bombs.
I appreciate the synergy there.
Now, if you could just move those bombs from inside to over on the left side of Spectacle Rock, it would be perfect. Load activating the flute, gonna be heading up to Death Mountain for sure, since they've checked everywhere else.
I always laugh at the Roy the Koopa bunny sprite, because it's literally just the same bunny, but with the glasses. Hey! The hammer.
Hammer time.
Get out your parachute pants, people, and start shuffling sideways, because it's the hammer.
Which will make this Moldorm fight a little bit easier, maybe. Sometimes people prefer to use spin strats with Master Sword over the hammer.
Spin strats are nice because it does the same damage as the hammer to Moldworm, but you can kind of take advantage of Moldworm's kind of wonky hitbox if you use spin slashes. But you do have to charge them up. So it does take a little time, so sometimes it's nice to have both the hammer and the spin are charged up Master Sword, and you can kind of use whatever makes the most sense depending on what Moldworm's movement patterns are.
SevenS1ns using my favorite Master Sword strat for that room with the spin double hit, and then promptly falling down the hole.
If I had just a ballpark kind of give you a suggestion on your strats for that room, is I would not fall down the hole, Mentos Man. That does take up extra time and is not strictly necessary. Oh, you were referring to the spins part. Okay, never mind.
Well, you know, falling down the hole looks nice. You know, you get a nice little break. It's kind of like the coffee break downstairs, just a shorter one.
Exactly. It's also worth noting that because we're still fire sourceless, the fact that Hera did not have a required basement is an important thing to point out. SevenS1ns going for the difficult bootless 2-pixel bomb jump setup. He does nail it.
Not even using the spin setup that, you know, makes it pretty much free if you get it down.
Aren't most strats free if you get them down, Mentos Man?
Well, yeah, but the spin strat is just, it puts you on the perfect pixel every time.
It's true. SevenS1ns going for speed strats there. If you walk in a certain correct part on the top of this bumper, you can walk right through it, like so. Much harder to do without the boots, but he does get it on the second try there.
I don't recall for sure. I believe it's actually the like yellow X in the middle that is actually what bumps you. Everything else is just graphical.
Oh wow, SevenS1ns down to half a heart. Yikes. And he's taunted by that giant row of pots that all is just full of hearts, but he can't access them. So he's going to have to take his time here.
Death to Moldorm is never... Oh wait, he has that fairy in a bottle from Regina's cave, so he's fine.
Yeah, he does. But it does take up time. And that is a safety out of your pocket.
True. Very true.
It's giving Load a little time to catch up here. Oh, wow. Moldorm is just trying to body him. That guy's annoying. But SevenS1ns does bust out hammer time. Tops it off with some sword spins, gets the job done. And the second item is in the basement.
Rewarded with a small key for an item that you cannot have.
Wow. Well, a hammer on Ether Tablet does give access to Eastern Death Mountain. So, you know, that is the thing. I was wondering why that book was given early, but now we know why, because it was needed for the hammer.
Does make sense. I'm definitely still rooting for Moon Pearl on Pyramid, though. Just drag it out as long as you can, give him as much hope as you can, and then, oh, Aghanim.
Ooh, I think that was that a fire rod?
I believe that was fire. It is kind of hard to make out the difference between fire and ice on the commentary restream here sometimes.
That's certainly true. We need to get George R. Martin in here to help us with that problem.
Now that the restream has caught up, can confirm it was the fire rod.
Alright, so Load can make up a little time on SevenS1ns here if he does not fall on Moldworm or doesn't have to use his fairy in a bottle. Although he did opt for the safer kind of vanilla way of getting the big key chest and hair there. Does take a little bit more time. That bomb jump is tricky,
but far safer.
Yeah, agree. That jump is tricky if you don't know the setups for it. You know, like most tricks. Meanwhile, we're about to hit the mother load of chests over here on East Death Mountain.
And there's the Moon Pearl. Aga is dead.
He is. Well, I guess specifically he's not dead and will remain not dead. Semantics, my friend.
Well, I mean, he'll be dead eventually. You know, just the second version of him.
Yeah, he'll be unre-dead. Figure that one out.
Other than that, just lots of money and the better boomerang.
So yeah, we got Dark World access via Hammer Power Mitts. So we'll be interested to see if SevenS1ns opts to do the Link's house check for an early hype cave, and then decides to route in Thieves Town with a mirror, or if he's going to opt to go to the north of Kakariko. It looks like it's the second one.
Yeah, both pretty common choices. I personally prefer the hype cave route just because it gives you a little bit of a very, very quick set of item checks. But this one gets you a little bit more options right next to you.
Yeah, agreed. I think knowing where the fire rod is makes you kind of want to route in Skullwoods, perhaps maybe a little bit different, because basically as soon as you find Mitts, you know you'll have access to fire rod, so that might affect your routing, it might not. Having access to the mirror also means that doing the hype cave over to the digging game check means you can just mirror and then go straight up to the north of Kakariko warp point. So the routing is a little cleaner, but this does give you access to a quick front of Skull Woods into Village of Outcasts check. So they're both solid plays, really.
I'm actually surprised to see this quick jump into Skull Woods without a map check, knowing that the fire rod is locked a little bit later in the logic.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta play your game. You know, if this was a pendant versus a crystal, would he do anything any different? If the answer is no, then spending time to check the map is kind of not necessary at this point. I personally like knowing where it is early so I can start thinking about, like, oh god, do I want to go into Pendant Turtle Rock if I get Smari early? Oh god, and then, you know, I like to panic early. So checking the map early, you know, facilitates that.
True. I mostly just meant from the perspective of, you know, you're not going to get Fire Rod in here. If you need to complete it, you know, maybe you hold off for a bit to try to get that mitt before you head in here. Save yourself a dip.
Oh, agreed. But, you know, if something important, you know, maybe mitts are in Skull Woods. You know, if you put that off for too long, it could be harmful. I don't know, maybe that's what he's thinking. Oh, and he gets a wall mastered, 7/Sins. Yikes. This room is annoying.
This room is. And the mummies tried to do it again. They tried really hard.
You'll see a lot of runners opt to take the time for the casting animation and just cast something like Bombos or Ether just to get these guys out of the way.
He's also got 2 boomerangs. The boomerangs stun the Gyptos, so you could have just thrown those at him and that would have been done with.
Maybe he just likes dancing with Gyptos. Not soon to be a major motion picture anytime soon.
And we get the big key, so we get to run back over here to the big chest. Meanwhile, Hype Cave has bombs, a blue shirt, a hook shot, 5 bomb capacity, and the bow!
Oh, wow! Alright. Wow, Load showing us exactly how happy he was with that Hype Cave. I give that Hype Cave a solid 8 out of 10 right there. That's a pretty good Hype Cave. You know what, I might even be willing to bump it up to 9 because some of the secondary items like Blue Mail were still very useful.
And we get our map check, Pendant TR, Green Pendant Swamp, and Crystal 5 at Misery Mire, and our other pendant at Ice Palace. That is a fantastic layout of pendants.
It is, but like most blessings, it can be a curse in disguise because now you've got hookshot and mirror and flippers, and you're staring down the barrel of a pendant swamp palace. That's frightening to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost support dipping in there right away. The seed's kind of screaming swamp, but then you go in swamp and like 9 times out of 10 you get nothing out of there.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know what... I mean, there's a lot of things they can do, you know, with Hammer, like having access to Hammer and Thieves Town as a crystal. Like routing that in sooner rather than later just to get it done seems wise. But, you know, going out of your way too far and doing too much overworld traveling. I mean, we're at the point of the tournament where even routing, you know, decisions just based on safety might end up costing you a race if you spend too much time traveling.
True. Also, as chat pointing out, Load did not check the shovel while visiting our dear friend Stumpy there. So
Very true.
That could be relevant later.
Maybe the digging game will refresh his memory. Oh, did it? Is he heading back? He did 1 extra dig. I'm not sure what that was all about.
Not sure either, but yep, looks like he remembered the shovel and is on his way over.
It is worth pointing out that the of all the items that they have, the shovel is still technically outside of logic because it was gotten from creepy old man in cave with shovel. But since we still don't have the lantern and don't know where it is, outside the logic.
That's true, but who really cares about the lamp? Lamp doesn't need to be in logic.
I guess I see what you're talking about there.
The boots!
That is a nice find. You know, boots at 39 minutes, not terrible. That does open up the items in desert, but still no fire source for desert.
You know what is kind of awful about those boots, though? SevenS1ns
I have to hear what could possibly be awful about boots.
Well, see, SevenS1ns was just up doing North Dark World stuff, including Graveyard Ledge. He could have mirrored into King's Tomb if he had gotten those boots before doing that, but he gets them as soon as he turns around. Now it's just out of the way to go check that.
Oh, that's very true. Man, I don't think I would ever be sad to find boots, but I think you just described the scenario in which it's possible. On the plus side, you do get boots before Thieves Town, a dungeon that is definitely benefited in terms of speed by having them.
It's true, although shoutouts to that Red Zazak, who just was the perfect sniper and caught him mid-boot dash.
Yeah, I'm not even mad, I'm just impressed.
Somebody give that horse-headed creature a raise.
Ooh, and now if Load does standard routing in Village of Outcasts here, he will not get the boots before going into Thieves Town, if that is indeed what is on his plan for the next chest. So this could be a pretty significant source of time loss for him. Oh, okay, he is checking the C-shaped house first.
Which is a plus, as Seven has found nothing of consequence in Thieves Town. Just $20 and I want to say a heart piece.
Wow, wow, these red horse guys are just giving him the business.
They're trying really hard. I guess maybe horses and turtles have some kind of, conflict.
There's some kind of blood feud in the animal kingdom. I can understand that. Actually,
Definitely heard Stranger Things.
I actually can't understand. I'm like, how would a turtle and a horse even fight? I mean, I guess there's a walking turtle with a spike shell and sunglasses. So I guess my suspension of disbelief has already been written.
And going with the Kana Burna dash down the God Pixel to make sure that you can get through it.
Wow, I was just about to say Kana Burna is a little rough there instead of the cape because you have to be on the pixel. But SevenS1ns just nails it. I'm actually super impressed. That was pretty cool. That's a lot harder to do than you might guess. And plus, he did it with a swag Burna dash too. Like that was just impressive.
And there's the lamp. That shovel's back in logic now. Yay!
That's the most important part of this seed is when was that shovel in logic? I mean, I guess the old man did go all the way down to the Haunted Grove just to bury 1/4 of a severed heart. So that is still creepy.
If this were a murder mystery, we would be well on our way to solving the case.
Yeah, the Hyrulean Hardy Boys, they're on the case. That does importantly open up all of Desert. And I think since Load checked Hype Cave first and does have access to the bow, that also means Pod will be fully clearable. So these runners will have some kind of different choices to make based on the items that they have, even though they're completing the same dungeon here. So I think it'll be real telling for how the rest of this race goes based on where both of these guys decide to go next.
Yep, and with Pod, you get the added benefit of you have the mirror, so you can just finish off Eastern Palace while you're over there, get that last item out of the way.
Yup.
Chat pointing out that Hera Basement is also open now because they want the seed to be evil.
Well, I mean, can you really blame chat? We found out in the first 8.5 minutes that Aghanim was basically not likely required and that the pedestal was dead. So we gotta give the crowd what they want. We gotta have a little bit of trolling here.
That's very true.
I mean, Twitch chat always has the best interests of the runner in mind and not about trolling at all. There's one thing I know about Twitch chat is that.
I missed that blind pun, and it's a new one that I haven't seen before.
We'll have a chance very shortly to see what it was.
Ah, lazy worms keep dragging their feet.
It's funny because they don't have any.
SevenS1ns, meanwhile, is done with blind. He did not drag his feet on that. Also, it was worms as in like WYRMS and then dragon DRAGON.
Yeah,
That's where the pun.
I was intentionally Okay, never mind.
I see. I just know that that one doesn't work quite as well spoken.
All right, so complete garbage in Thieves Town, but you know the all-important required crystal. So at the very least, you got something necessary in this place. All right, let's see blind pun round 2 here.
We'll see if Load got off to a little bit of a shaky start there on blind, and blind does get scary if you get off script. Yep.
I do like this. I do like this powder check here by SevenS1ns. It's kind of a good thing to do before you leave the area. Because if you wait too long to route this in with Mitts, and something important like Mitts had been there, you could have been punished. That was not the case here, but still it shows off solid routing decisions, I think.
Unfortunately, running down into that little side part of the room there, that was a less good routing decision. But I do agree. I like the routing decision to get that magic bat done there.
SevenS1ns is most likely going to continue heading south here. He'll do the dig game route, and he'll most likely end up with that amazing 9 out of 10 hype cave, and he will be very close to the Pod Eastern Palace area. So he'll be catching up to what's Load's routing decisions have led him to a little bit here. So Load does have maybe a slight lead over SevenS1ns right now, but there's a bunch of North Dark World that SevenS1ns has checked that Load has not checked. Of course, we know nothing of importance to be up there, but it does save him time if he decides to skip it, I guess.
True, and looking at the items, we are pretty much Cane of Samaria and Titan Smiths away from Go mode, with the potential for that Quake medallion to be a little bit of a jerk about things.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest troll we could possibly have at this point would be Quake medallion access from Meyer. For those that may or may not be considering troll locations.
So what you're saying is Quake on Trinex.
Gross.
Well, Load really wanted that ice rod, so I want to make sure that there's a reason for the seed to give it to him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was in a way asking for it. It's also worth noting that if SevenS1ns was planning on doing any crazy Swamp Palace plays, he'll do it now if he's ever going to do it, most likely. Although I have a feeling that once he finds the bow and hype cave, that will be completely out of the question.
Yeah, with 2 full clearable crystals with 5 items in pod versus a 6 in Pendant Swamp, yeah, you're probably going pod first.
Yeah, well, technically 6 if you include the item in Eastern that we know is there. Wow, he clears back to front hype cave. I'm going to give that an extra 0.5 points on the hype cave scale just because of the difference in excitement I got from seeing the bow first. So I'm upgrading the hype cave to a 9.5 out of 10.
Might be the best hype cave that I've seen since V18. And SevenS1ns choosing to not go check the pyramid, this is pretty much the only time you're ever going to be able to route that well, but you're getting close to go mode, so I can't blame him for not wanting to take the time to go do that.
Yeah, and when you consider which crystal is one of the 5-6, it's Misery Mire, and that's the item, that's the dungeon that requires like all the items that you're missing for go mode. So the odds of something good being in Pyramid Fairy are basically 0 unless, well, not 0, it could be Quake. Assuming that Misery Mire is not Quake.
Well, yeah, but if it was Quake, then Misery Mire isn't Quake, and then you don't need Quake.
Yeah, you're right, actually. So I don't think anything progression-wise can be in Fat Fairy. But this is why I don't do math and try to predict routing live on stream.
That is fair.
Alright, so we've got boots, hammer, mirror, bow, pod routing. So this should be pretty straightforward. We're probably not going to see a lot of route divergence here. The big thing we're going to be looking for is, do we get any progression items in this dungeon?
Also, if you know the hammer yump, you can try to dig out the big key before you go to the back just to save like the smallest amount of time, but not everyone has practiced that.
Well, and a lot of times people will, if they don't, like, they'll consider the hammer yump if they have the big key early, and if they don't, they'll probably do right side and kind of standard pod routing before they do anything else. But so it looks like Load opting not to do it. Can't say I blame him. Still looking for that big key as far as I'm aware.
They've been nicely dodging the mini Helmasaur instead of just throwing that pod at it, so you could save the pod for the second, more annoying mini Helmasaur.
There's the big key.
And with 3 small keys at this point, the harmless Hellway down below this room will have an item of consequence, maybe.
At the very least, it won't be another key.
Now he knows where the boss is. That's very useful.
Yeah, that's good information to know, I think. He won't have to consult his map anymore. These are all important time-saving techniques, Kappa.
You know, these runners who have probably poured hundreds of hours into this game, that compass to show them where the map boss is still pretty important.
Speaking of things that are actually legitimately important, Tempered Sword in the Dark Pod Maze here, actually a pretty significant time savings.
Yes,
SevenS1ns getting trolled by the bumper beetle, or whatever those things are called. Oh, yeah, Mentos, man. You knew the name of those weird horse head guys. What are those guys called?
I believe they're just called hard hat beetles.
Alright, see, I was trying to throw you under the bus there, but you surprised me. Good work.
See, there was a point during the Keysanity tournament that Willard posted a thing about all the official names of all the enemies and told us all commentators should call them by the right names. And I remembered like 5 of them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, in general, ignoring what Willard says is probably good advice. Kappa. Alright, Load trying to set up the crystal switch hit with a bow there. Pretty tight timing window, but does manage to get in the second shot.
Hammer dashing through those spots to get some hearts, and now for the nice fun statue push that you always hope you have Samaria for instead.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't cost a ton of time, like in the grand scheme of things, but it's so annoying knowing that I could just magically place a block here instead of having to do all this manual labor. Alright, so SevenS1ns picking up his Tempered Sword. With both Silvers and Tempered Sword, we're going to be having ourselves a pretty straightforward Ganon's Tower in terms of the Gauntlet and Ganon fight itself.
Ganon fight itself is definitely pretty much approaching the easiest point it gets. Butter, if you're not 100% confident with the Tempered Sword, is a little bit helpful, but for the most part, Tempered is just as good.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can save, or rather the Ganon Phase 1 and 2 fights can be a little bit faster if you're not practiced with the Tempered Sword spin strats, but yeah. I guess it depends on where Ganon teleports as far as the RNG goes too. But I mean, who doesn't enjoy delicious cholesterol swords? I know I do.
I think everyone does. And to be fair, Butter's not much of a worse sword material than gold, so, you know.
That's true. I mean, I'm no blacksmithologist, but that sounds pretty good to me.
Load on the Helmasaur fight here, 17 hits of the hammer to the face, or 5 bombs, but bomb strats are much harder despite probably being actually what the game thought you were going to do.
Load says, "You can't tell me how to play this game."
And fires a silver arrow into Helmasaur's face exactly as you would do in the vanilla game, for sure. No question that.
Yeah, that seems all pretty straightforward and right, you know, just as expected. See, it's funny because you don't get silver arrows until much later in the vanilla game.
unless he plays some major glitch runs.
That is true. Alright, so Load finally does his map check. Maybe he just forgot which place was where, but does correctly mirror. We'll get the next crystal in Eastern Palace here. Worth noting that Eastern Palace still has one item left. So outside of Tempered Sword, we didn't really get a whole lot useful out of Palace of Darkness, except for the crystal, I guess. So if this is not a progression item, Load's got quite a bit of options left on his hands. Really looking for, at this point, Titan's Mitts to open up the seed a little bit. We know Titan's Mitts leads to Fire Rod on East Dark Death Mountain.
Watching Load for a while here, I do want to give a little bit of a shout out for... There have been some points on some of the shorter length distances where you can use boots that he hasn't been. And I'm guessing that's a matter of not feeling 100% that he won't bonk on those shorter distances. So he's actually making the conscious effort to not use them when he thinks it could go wrong, which saves you a lot more time than trying to press the boots forward and having issues with them.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's like 4.5 tile lengths. It has to be the length of the dash for it to break even over just walking it, if you consider like the startup animation for the boots.
And then
it's something like that.
And then if you bonk, you go back about that far, and you have to just walk it anyway, and you're like, oh.
You do get to see the sweet bonk animation, though. So, you know, if that's enough to boost your morale, you know, maybe that can... It's like the equivalent of playing like Rocky music, and it just gets you rehyped and you just start executing better. Probably unlikely, but it's possible, I'm just saying.
It is possible, but I'm going to agree with you. Probably pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Karate Kid music is probably a more likely choice.
And we now come up on the silliest boss fight in the game, Silver Arrow Armros.
Oh, Load having a bit of trouble with the initial setup, but still does manage to pull it off. Oh, and I guess I'm a big fat liar. I forgot that we picked up the third item in the big key chest in Eastern Palace. So yeah, there was actually no item there. But thanks for not calling me out on it, Mentos.
See, I couldn't actually remember, so I just kind of deferred to your judgment that we probably had an item left.
That was your first mistake, deferring to my judgment. That's delicious.
Okay, so they can go do Desert now. That's the only crystal they have left they can full clear. Gonna see where Load is gonna be going. Neither of them have checked King's Tomb or Bonk Rocks yet, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, and that will be one thing that Load will have an advantage over SevenS1ns, because Seven's already been to that area, so he's a little bit less incentivized to go back there and check it. Does have a little bit of trouble with the spin in that final Igor room in Eastern there, but...
Takes out the Armos quite nicely, though. Gets his compass, gets his worthless crystal 5-6.
You mean gets his third item, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so Load also making the decision to go into Skull Woods, even though he knows that the Fire Rod is mitts-locked in Dark Death Mountain. Probably made the decision for a similar reason that SevenS1ns did. Also, this does work into the routing pretty well. He'll be able to go through all of you know, the northern Dark Death, or the northern Dark World loop, and just kind of do it all at once. Does have a little bit of trouble in that Firebar Beetle room, though.
Yep, and unfortunately for him, this is giving a little bit of time back to SevenS1ns that he had kind of picked up by not checking this early.
Oh my god, is SevenS1ns doing what I think he might be doing?
He might be doing that, which I would find slightly crazy with... Yeah, that's what he's doing, probably, unless he's just going bombos.
I think it's bombos into desert's probably more likely, because that lantern does give us access to desert, which is a crystal. Yeah, okay, that's a lot more sensible. All right.
Yeah, that is.
You got. I'm putting my my pitchfork and torch down. I think we're good.
To be fair, I do sometimes support the early Pendant Swamp play, but right here, desert makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, the only real reason to consider putting off desert is... Oh my gosh, is he doing it?
He's actually doing it.
The absolute madman, I love it. This is the play that, okay, I'm
Or
just...
not.
And then Load is
But-
just having the worst trouble with that statue. I don't know, no matter where I'm looking, I'm seeing amazing greatness. I love this tournament.
I'm so confused why Seven didn't just jump down off the ledge right to desert.
All right, let's transport ourselves into the mind of SevenS1ns. All right, it's the tourney. It's tied 1-1. I'm heading over to Bombo's tablet. Let's go into Pendant Swamp and look for an item. Oh wait, that's dumb. I've got Crystal Desert. I don't know what to do. I think it's a pretty short recap of what probably just happened there.
I actually see in the chat an actual good point. He might have just wanted to save that warp so he can go to Swamp after Desert if he doesn't get anything in here.
Possible, I guess, is fluting to Link's house and then taking that warp right above Swamp faster than running all the way out of Desert and over again? I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know either, so I'm going to go with if it is faster, it's not by a whole lot.
That's fair. Also, we didn't really mention it when these runners were in Desert about a half an hour ago, but the option to steal a key from the back of Desert was on the table and neither runner chose to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if anything like progression-wise is on the right side of Desert here. It could technically have been available outside of logic to these runners.
That is
much
one
earlier.
of those sequence breaks that I've seen pay off like once ever.
Oh yeah, it doesn't always mean anything, but it could. It's the kind of thing that would bother you. Like if you're in a tight race and you see something like that, you know, much later, and you knew that that could have been something you could have gotten, it could bother you. But in this case, not relevant.
We just got 20 rupees and a burrito, so no one's concerned over either of those.
Well, except for Taco Bell. It's because they sell burritos, Mentos, man.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if you weren't laughing because you didn't understand the joke, like I 100% did not do with that blind pun earlier.
So Seven going to the back of Desert as LoaDPille is finally checking the bunk rocks for a piece of heart.
Yeah, if Load gets something big out of either King's Tomb or would have gotten something big out of the bonk rocks there, that could be pretty significant for the end of this match because, again, SevenS1ns checked this area without boots first, so he's a little bit less incentivized to go back there.
Yep, and King's Tomb especially, since bonk rocks you can just save and quit the Sanctuary and hey, you're right here. King's Tomb without mitts, you gotta go this route.
Yeah, it's just pretty solid running. And honestly, it made a lot of sense for SevenS1ns to check this area when he did. It just, you know, sometimes things work out differently in Randomizer, which makes it so interesting to watch.
So moment of truth coming up on Load side, while SevenS1ns is going into what should be a pretty easy land mole, despite all things considered.
That's true. Although if you get even just a little bit off on the rhythm for silver arrows, things can go poorly. But that is not the case. A very excellent one-round silver arrows landmo, and he's rewarded by garbage and a crystal.
And the other of the bonk locations is also a piece of heart, so that failed.
Man, where are the progression items in this seed?
I'm calling catfish.
I'm calling Pendant Swamp because I'm a jerk.
I'm also okay with that, but I was thinking, you know, catfish had one of them, maybe Pendant Swamp had the other, and then, you know, Trinex had Trinex had Quake.
Very excellent cactus avoidance by SevenS1ns there. And unfortunately, it pains me to say it, but it looks like Twitch chat was right about SevenS1ns' routing choice here with the placement of that warp location.
They were indeed correct. I'll give them some points.
I refuse to acknowledge it. Although he is going into Pendant Swamp. So this is where dreams are either made or crushed, right here.
Usually crushed, but sometimes you get lucky.
Load having a little trouble with spin speed there. I didn't quite catch the item on Pyramid, but it must not have been worth getting because Load opted not to check it. Or opted not to go pick it up.
I mean, it was 300 rupees, but Load's sitting at over 900. In fact, these two are tied in rupees, both at exactly 916, which is kind of weird. How do you end up an hour into a run, having checked different things, and somehow at exactly the same rupee count?
Black magic voodoo.
I just want them to teach me.
Oh,
First chest!
oh, see, this is actually huge because you're still looking for a lot of progression items. Titan's Mints opens up just a ton of locations to check, but if you leave Swamp and it turns out that like Cane of Samaria is further in this dungeon, you will have 100% screwed yourself. So SevenS1ns is just sweating bullets right now because he has no idea if Samaria is further back in here or if it's somewhere, you know, Fire Rod or Mid's locked.
Yeah, I'd say when you get in that first chest there, it's probably worth just leaving and going to check other stuff, but if you're wrong, it definitely costs a good chunk of time.
I'd be curious to see if, like, SevenS1ns could kind of, like, hedge his bets and say, alright, I'm gonna go, like, I'll check the chest-dense locations of this dungeon, and then I'll leave, like, the boss fight and, you know, like, the left side of Swamp open. But in this case, the boss fight is actually a green pendant, which could be an item. So, this is, you know, you guys were looking for a troll. We found it right here, with that first chest and pendant green dungeon, or green pendant swamp, Titan's Mints. Yikes.
So that also gives us the Fire Rod the next time they go up to Death Mountain, which means Skull Woods will be clearable. They might be able to get into Misery Mire, although they can't finish it. And we're just going to hope when they go over there we see Quake.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of that might be worth leaving Swamp as soon as you get the mitts for is going to Mire and knowing whether or not you need a Quake or not, I think would affect your routing quite a bit. Because, you know, you want to know when you're in go mode, and knowing whether or not you have to keep digging for another medallion or not, I think is pretty important information. But I definitely respect the staying in Swamp and checking items while you're here play, because, man, if you leave and you're wrong, it's going to cost you.
He does at least get a couple of heart containers, which, given the fact that he was at 9 hearts at this point, not long ago, that's probably a nice benefit.
Yeah, with Blue Mail, it's like if you were at Green Mail that many hearts, definitely, but Blue Mail does make a pretty big difference. But you know what? I'm almost never sad to see heart containers, so. Load opting to, I don't know if he was trying to Death Warp there and forgot he had the mirror or a fairy. Maybe he just wanted the health restore. Judging by those slashes of frustration, that was probably not planned.
That was definitely a planned death, but a forgotten fairy, which...
yes. Yes. Good stuff.
How many times in all these races have we seen runners do exactly that? I'm gonna Death Warp to get my health back, or get back to the start of the dungeon. Sprinkled with powder. Oh.
The only time in a Zelda game where a helpful fairy turns out to be unhelpful. Alright, so SevenS1ns finishes up Argus, is basically rewarded with garbage. I think it'll be real telling if he decides to go back in the dungeon how worried he is about Swamp. Leaving completely right now would not be a terrible play, I don't think. And that is exactly what
I believe he actually got all the items, so going back in would be rather silly in this case.
Yeah, you're right, yeah, because that last item wasn't Big Key or Map Compass. Yep, good call. I never learned how to count Mentos, man. It's a rough life.
That does seem rough. I can help you learn. You know, 7, like SevenS1ns, that comes after 6.
Okay, I'm writing this down. 6 comes before 7. Alright, we're good. And actually, that means I'm going to need your help when we get to Ganon's Tower, because I'm going to be completely lost.
That's fair, and 7 is going immediately to Sahasrara, like, please, Green Pendant, have something. I didn't just waste all that time, did I? Oh god, no.
Did he? Is it?
He's got an actual useful shield, but that's not so great.
Finger quotes useful shield. I was more impressed by the dodging of the Octoroks he did there than anything else.
Now, see, I'm not gonna lie, I 100% would have checked the Mire area before coming up here, since if the cane is over there, you can clear Mire without having to come up here first. But if it's Quake, you know to be looking for that while you're up here.
Yeah, that's true. I 100% agree with that decision. But it's really easy to focus in on the the fire rod, knowing where that progression item is.
Yep, and it's also much easier to try to think about the quote-unquote optimal routing while you're sitting here calmly with nothing on the line than when you're fighting to stay alive in this tournament.
Although really, unless Cane of Samaria is up here, which it might be, you have to come up here and leave anyway to get the fire rod. Like you're 100% coming back up here and leaving anyway. So maybe in the end, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference whether or not you decide to, dig more or not. Going into Turok is literally your only alternative option based on knowing whether or not you need Quake.
True. There is very slim situations where it would make a noteworthy difference in terms of how much time it was, but there's a potential it could. And Pen and T-Rock requires Bombos, so if Quake is required for Mire, it could be on Trinex. Hookshot Cave with bomb capacity with the swag net. 10 bombs. Shot to the face.
Nothing useful in Death Mountain except for that fire rod. Again, worth pointing out, the only thing that really would have really made him have to make hard decisions is if Samaria had been up here and Turtle Rock was accessible. All right, Load gets the myths.
And he's leaving.
He's going to save time. This is crazy. So he's going to get back just a ton of time that he lost over SevenS1ns here. We'll see if he decides to go to Mire first, or if he's going to go to Death Mountain for the same reasons that SevenS1ns did.
He did try to call the duck in the Dark World. That didn't work, so he mirrored over. And he's going to Death Mountain. But that just made this very, very close.
Wow. Yeah, this is a close race. And actually, depending on where Samaria ends up being, I have a feeling the runners will do... What SevenS1ns will probably do is he'll do Skull Woods, since, you have to do it for the crystal. And then go over and check Bonk. Or, nope, he's going straight to Mire. Wants to know if he needs another medallion.
This is also 3 very quick overworld checks, so that also helps. It's Bombos.
All right,
no
so we
Quake Troll.
Yeah, we are Cane of Samaria away from Go mode here. And already we've got chat wanting for Cane of Samaria to be in Hera Basement. You guys are awful.
Oh, that is wonderful. The best I can come up with was Cold Stare.
Yeah, Cold Stare would be pretty gross. Oh wow, SevenS1ns is making the Samaria-less play into Crystal Misery Mire.
Okay, I don't mind that play entirely, but why wouldn't you check Checkerboard Cave first? It's right there, and it's so fast.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised myself. But in we go. If he had come out of that, oh, is he thinking better of it? He is, but he's skipping Checkerboard Cave? I'm so confused right now. I'm guessing he's going to Skull Woods? Okay. So he just wanted to go there first to make me sound like I was wrong when I was describing what he was going to do, which I can respect. That's next level plays, even though he can't actually hear me.
Yeah, that was pretty good, although I'm not sure if the fall made him decide, you know what, never mind, or if it was more so just like, wait a second, I don't have Cane, I'm gonna get out of here.
Oh, we saw a rare Ether use. In the vanilla game, Ether is what lets you see those invisible patterns on the wall, or on the ground, so you know where to go. So Load opting to use Ether there, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he knew what the ground pattern was. Maybe he just wanted to show it off.
I know out of all the invisible floors you have to walk over, that is the one that I fall on most often, because you don't do it very often.
Yeah, that's very true. That's one of those locations you always look at first before you go into it. So the odds of there being a required item there are not always very high. I can't words make talk do.
Load following right along the Skull Woods, so they're gonna be right next to each other again.
Ooh, going for the fairy catch. He's replacing the fairy that he might have accidentally used earlier. I can respect that.
Yeah, I can't talk down about that. That's a very good idea. A lucky fairy drop to give you the chance to do it.
I believe the odds of a fairy being in that bush are a little higher than normal, actually. I'm not sure the exact math. I'm sure someone can help me out, but there's a fairy there more often than not, I believe.
True, but it's still not guaranteed.
Alright, so we got ourselves a Tempered Sword Moth. Should be pretty straightforward, assuming Moth stops hugging the spikes.
One
He's
fire
not.
rod shot that, due to damage values, actually makes no difference on the fight. And dead. Actually, that might have cut a hit out. I might have been wrong there.
It's what? It's 4 tempered swings, or because I think fire rod, it's 8 fire rod shots or 4 tempered swings.
Yeah, I think he got 3 swings and a fire rod shot, so maybe the health is just awkward enough where it can cut one down by having that fire rod shot. In which case, I learned something today.
Knowledge is half the battle. Load going for if there's one thing I've learned about Load so far in this match is that he loves his medallions. We've had usage of Ether and Bombos outside of your typical usage, so I'm loving it.
And it's a heart container as the other item in Skull Woods, so... Are we looking for ice? Are we looking for something worse like Hera Basement?
I'm a little surprised that SevenS1ns isn't opting to check the Flanktuary bonk chests, because I don't think he's been back there, right?
He is not. Now he's going back to the Maya area. Will he check Checkerboard before going in this time? Please check Checkerboard Cave.
Can you say check checkerboard one more time?
Well, he's going to check Checkerboard Cave, so...
Yes! Alright. Unfortunately, he will lose a little bit of time over Load when Load decides to go to this area just because of his routing choices. He is opting to pick up red mail. Can't really say I blame him. That's about 4 seconds to give you a pretty big safety.
True, and unlike Uncle, who thinks that red mail is for cowards, most people know that it's just for anyone who doesn't want to die.
Well, you know what I say to Uncle? Red mail is for alive cowards. And Uncle is super dead at the beginning of this game, so what does that jerk know?
Not a whole lot, as has been commonly pointed out lately. He gets killed before there's a single enemy to be killed by, so...
Yeah, I would assume that when he falls down the shortcut on the side of Hyrule Castle, he breaks his old man leg and is just crippled. So, yeah, he can't handle the rigors of adventuring. Alright, meanwhile, we've got SevenS1ns definitely handling the rigors of adventuring because he is making the Samaria-less play into Misery Mire.
It's definitely the bet on play. You know, if you're right, you probably have a pretty decent shot in the race. If you're wrong, your opponent probably did this, so you don't really lose much.
Yeah, and honestly, Misery Mire is one of those dungeons that you need to kind of clear until you find the big key anyway. So even if you're wrong and you don't find the Cane of Samaria in here, you don't lose as much time as you would compared to like another dungeon.
Unless it's the Godmire, which it is not. So, yeah, you don't lose a whole lot.
And honestly, SevenS1ns is probably glad to see that it's not the Godmire with the early big key.
That's what really makes you sweat, when you are doing this caneless Samaria dip, and the first chest is the big key, and you're just like, oh no.
Yeah, that's always the worst. Well, I guess it's not, like, pedestal of Moon Pearl or something, but you know, that would be the worst. All right, so there's that big key. Is SevenS1ns going to head? He's heading to the right. Nope, he's SevenS1ns, you're
Can't
killing
quite
me.
make up his mind.
He's going for the highest chest per minute, which is definitely this right side here. So I think he eventually came to the correct conclusion. All right, so there's one item. He's got 2 chests to open on the right side here. He's looking for the second one.
I give bonus points if he was considering the logic there that the big key being on that side means it's possible a small key is over there, so the odds of it being an item are actually a little bit lower. Since Meyer has a lot of small keys that don't actually, you know, make a difference in your ability to clear the dungeon.
All right, meanwhile, we got Load heading into the same Oh my god!
Pure
Cadence
vanilla!
Mario. Are you kidding me? Oh, wow!
Okay, I just have to say, that is the second match in this tournament that I have done commentary on with a pure vanilla Canis Mario. What is this?
Oh, wow. That is not even French vanilla. I mean, it was literally in the regular chest. Wow. So we go mode right now, and actually this is a super interesting race because Load is about to make the same discovery. He'll probably make the same, you know, the same chest route here, probably minus the 2 seconds of indecision that SevenS1ns had.
Yep, or he could go to that vanilla big key spot and maybe lose a little bit of time, but hopefully going to make what turned out to be the right call here.
And by a little bit of time, you mean a gigantic, huge pile of time because you had to wait for that wall cutscene, right?
Well, I mean, the wall cutscene's only like 15 seconds.
I thought we were going to see a weird, spooky crystal switch strats here in the bottom of Meyer, but does not look to be the case.
Yeah,
So
it seems like he must have missed the setup for it because he thought he had it.
All right, so we're looking at probably a couple minutes difference here between these runners, and that's pretty crazy considering the way the seed is gone. I mean, that's the difference in G tower routing and some execution. So this is a pretty close race that we got right here.
Oh, but Load checked that chest over there first, which means he's probably going to do vanilla big key.
We'll have to see. It's the moment of truth here. Yeah, it looks like you're right. Load will unfortunately lose about a minute based on this room and the cutscene.
Also, Seven just got his 7th crystal, so I think that means that there's some kind of game that we normally do at this point.
Rock, paper, scissors?
I mean, we could do that.
But no, the actual game that we're playing is the big key guessing game. So there are 22 chests in Ganon's tower that have the big key. If you are a supporter of Speed Gaming, if you donate 250 bits to any of the Speed Gaming channels, or you're a subscriber, you can be entered in the leaderboard if you guess correctly. Mentos Man, what is your big key location of choice?
Okay, I'm going to guess 21. I usually guess 22, but I want it to be Seven's last location and Load's first. Or, well, not first, but early for Load, to make this a real close race.
You want to keep the hype levels at maximum. I can respect that. Yeah, I usually go with, I like to stealthily choose a room location instead of a number, thus increasing the chances of my guess being correct. So I'm going to go for Randomizer room, because it's the room named after the randomizer, and there's also 4 chests in it.
It seems like a reasonable pick. It does tend to show up there pretty often, so I feel like you got some good odds.
Oh, Load is not happy finding that Canis Samaria. Can't say I blame him. He knows that he's got to feel okay about his decision. He did not go into Swamp Palace at all outside of that first check item, and he did not go into Ice Palace at all, so he's not feeling like he's crazy far behind. But he knows he definitely lost time going onto the left side of Misery Mire with that vanilla big key chest that unfortunately did not pay out anything.
Yep, and really this is still very close, but it would be closer just Load did a little bit more overworld checks than Seven did. Seven kind of pushed his luck a little bit more.
Alright, so we've got ourselves the crystal animation. SevenS1ns will be entering G Tower at about 125 and some spare change seconds. It's worth noting that SevenS1ns did opt to do a potion check before, or rather get potions before entering Ganon's Tower, just for some little bit extra safety. And it looks like we've got pretty meta strats from SevenS1ns here. He'll be doing the quick right side, and then he'll probably be going full left based on the way he started his routing here.
Even with chests 1 and 2 being nothing, and now the torch having nothing to allow Bob to live, it's not giving you much choice but to go left.
Pretty much. Well, you could do Dark Magician strats and have gone left first and then go full right, but we'll have to see. So that's 4, 5, 6, that's not a big enough key. And 7, also a key of insufficient size.
And we also finally find out that the stun prize is 5 rupees. I don't think that matters at this point, but it's worth noting.
Truly an absolutely stunning discovery.
Incidentally, there's also a blue rupee in that very chest. So apparently that chest was stunning.
We've got NMG boomerang strats from SevenS1ns here. Very nice. So what, that was chest 8 if I see. I need your help counting here, Mentos Man, if we're going to continue this joke.
That was indeed chest 8, and now chest 9 is another tiny key. And Load is also loading up on potions.
And SevenS1ns appears to have bomb diarrhea. That sounds awful.
That does sound like the worst thing a person could have.
Yeah, agreed.
So 10 is a map, 11 is 10 arrows, 12 is 20 rupees, and 13 is a heart piece.
I think more importantly what we've discovered is that I was wrong in my guess, so I guess that completes the I'm usually wrong portion of this commentary. Which, you know, is on brand.
Nothing better than staying on brand.
Alright, excellent bonk over the warp tile there by SevenS1ns, saving some time. Alright, so if nothing is in either Bob chests or behind Ice Armos, there is a chance for Load to still be alive for this G-Tower race. Oh, it does lose a little time in the hookshot skip over that room there.
That was number 14? Yeah, 14. Bob had nothing. But yeah, if Load did the Dark Magician strats, it's looking like it would come out ahead.
Oh.
But Vanilla Big Key.
What is going on? We went from Vanilla Cane of Samaria to Vanilla Big Key? Gross.
Apparently the randomizer just gave up at the end here. Just like, nope, I quit.
The logic was just, you know, putting items in chests, and it was like, alright, I'm done. It's lunchtime, man. I'm out of here. Where should we put Cane of Samaria? Just put in the regular chest. Is my takeout here yet?
Listen, I've done my 8 hours for the day. You aren't getting any more out of me.
I mean, we like to humanize our randomizer logic here at Link to the Past Randomizer. But that does still mean that if Load opts to do any crazy G Tower strats like full right or like Altered Dark Magician strats, he could save a little time over SevenS1ns. That does not look to be the case though, because there is not a small key on the right side here.
Yeah, and you have to go the full right route all the way to Ice Armos, which usually involves going to Stalfos room absolutely first.
Yeah, agreed. Alright, SevenS1ns just deciding to burn this place down with the fire rod here. Does get himself a little bit low on magic.
I feel like that may have been the reason for those blue potions more than health. Just so you could
Agreed.
spam the fire rod with reckless abandon.
I mean, it does make that super satisfying foosh noise. Oh wow, the 2 horse head kills in one swipe. I'm actually impressed.
The Stalfos is hiding in the worst place it could possibly hide.
Yeah,
Actually being super effective.
yeah, SevenS1ns actually having a little bit of trouble in this last gauntlet room here. That ended up costing him quite a bit of time there, unfortunately.
And some silver arrows to land mode, just as clean as his land mode 1 fight was, and he'll be moving upstairs.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Now for my favorite rooms in the game, the rooms that the Cane of Samaria was designed for. You know, there was that one guy in the development team who was like, can we add like a 4-way beam to the Cane of Samaria? Because I have this great idea for rooms in the final dungeon that it would just be perfect for.
Wow, so 7 luckily had one more shot of of torch or of magic there for his torch lighting to make up for that missed last shot there. That could have been rough.
Definitely could have been. I have had that happen before and just had to stand there like, what now?
Alright, so Load is going to be on his way toward the big key, but at this point it's going to take a lot of trolling from Trolldorm or some rough spots on the Ganon fight to make up a lot of this time. Pretty nice Moldorm 2 fight there by SevenS1ns.
Yeah, he even got a nice little hug while Moldorm was dying. He just wrapped himself around them, you know, saying farewell.
Oh no, Load accidentally picked up the the skull pot, trying to set up the bonk. Sorry, he'll just reset the room. But that is time he cannot afford to lose toward the end of this race, unfortunately.
Yep, and you could do the bomb jump over there. It's very easy since it's only 1 tile, but if you don't know how to set it up, then it's probably better to do exactly what Load did. Just run back and save it for later.
Very nice triple for the first round by SevenS1ns. Clearly he brought his protractor to this fight, but then he dropped it on the floor for the second and third phase there. He bought one of those cheap protractors that's made of plastic and it broke after he used it the first time.
At least he managed to kind of, you know, brute force his way through it after that protractor broke. Just, I got this, don't worry.
Alright, so Load opting to check the chest behind Ganon. At this point, the biggest item that you could find that would help your, or speed up your, like, gauntlet would probably be half magic. Everything else still dies to Tempered Sword in 1 hit, so he must have been fishing for that.
And we're on to the Ganon fight. He's wondering why there's a light in the fridge if we aren't supposed to have midnight snacks, which is a very valid question.
It's because not everyone's refrigerator is in a spot that has natural light. Oh, it was a joke, never mind.
You and your logical reasons.
Alright, so we've got ourselves pretty clean first couple of phases. SevenS1ns opting to use the cape here for this Ganon phase.
Yep, with all those blue potions, why even risk it? Just cape right through it. You don't have to worry about your magic.
Moving on to phase 3. Looks like Ganon's being pretty nice with the teleports.
I was hoping he kept going there, just to prove you wrong.
Well, that would be the through line for this match. Oh, there's still time for the last one here. Oh no. Okay, all right. That was an
only 4.
Yeah, that's pretty acceptable number of teleports. Yes, Ganon, we did find the Silvers in Eastern. In fact, you're tasting their wrath right now. Ooh, nice dash strats by SevenS1ns there to catch Ganon.
Yep, got a hug because of it, but he's got red mail, so hugs don't hurt all that bad.
Yeah, the biggest damage they do there is emotionally. Alright, well, SevenS1ns is lifting his sword up in victory. It looks like he will be taking the victory here. So get your GGs out in chat for SevenS1ns. Clinching his victory in the bracket phase here, he will move on to the round of 64.
Let's give the official time. He does finish at 1:35:22 on SRTV.
So yeah, honestly, a pretty solid race here. Real similar routing decisions from both runners. No crazy 2-hour troll seed. I think Load ended up checking a few more of the overworld locations, had slight different variations in the routing. But all in all, just a real solid performance from both runners.
Absolutely, it was a very fun one to watch. Seven definitely had a little bit of an execution edge. It became a little bit more apparent the closer we got to the end. But as a whole, they were very close throughout.
Yeah, agreed. Meanwhile, we've got Load making his way up Ganon's tower here. Had a little trouble in the Wizrobe room. That room's annoying because most runners practice it with the immediate Samaria block kill for all of them. So if you get off of that kind of muscle memory, you just kind of have to make it up on the fly as you go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Personally, if I make a mistake on the Samaria strat, I just walk back down to the bottom and wait for the next cycle and do it over.
That's fair. I've seen people bust out like Ether or things like that to try to catch them when they all appear. You just gotta do whatever works. Alright, let's see if we can get SevenS1ns in here for an interview.
He's actually already in the waiting room, so he should be hopping up here soon.
All right, looks like we are joined by SevenS1ns. Seven, congratulations on your victory. Looks like you'll be moving on to the next stage of the brackets.
Yeah, thank you. That was an amazing seed. That was really fun.
Yeah, what were you thinking when you headed? You know, you kind of covered a lot of your gambles, and you were looking for that Cane of Samaria, and you made a pretty reasonable play to go into Misery Mire. What was going through your head when you found the Cane of Samaria in its OG vanilla location?
I'll be honest with you, I wasn't surprised. For some reason, I was trying to read the logic a little bit better this seed, and I had at some point I was making the choice, like, you know, is it gonna be in Skullwoods because of the you know, the way that the seed was set up with the myths leading to the fire rod, and then I figured, no, maybe the cane is locked behind the fire rod. And after that, I was like, you know what? The only other logical option is that it's inside of Misery Mire or in any of the other 20 overworld locations. That I'm just gonna gamble on Mire, but it didn't feel like a gamble at all. It felt like it was gonna be there after I finished Skullwoods. I was like, it's gonna be here.
Well, and you have to go into Mire to find the big key anyway. So even if it wasn't there, you don't lose like a huge pile of time. I bet you were probably a lot more worried about finding Titan's Mitts in the very first chest of Pen and Swamp. I bet you were probably debating whether, you know, to stay in and clear it or just leave. Like, what was
the combination with the green pendant basically just made the decider there for me to stick and clear it, because yeah, I have some bad history with the green pendant. So I figured, you know what, forget about it. I'm gonna do a fast swap and see what happens, and I'm hoping for something good. And yeah, that didn't pay off, but I still think it was the right play to make. Like, it could have definitely been there with how empty Pod and EP were, basically, because Flippers, you know, basically led to the myths at that point because they didn't hide anything else.
Yeah, agreed. And honestly, if any runner at this point doesn't have some kind of like post-traumatic stress disorder from a green pen in dungeon, they just haven't played enough seeds yet.
I do agree. I do agree with that, especially if it's swamp, you know, because it's such a like a dungeon with so many options. Like, do you go for the left side? You know, do you go straight for Argus? Do you come back? Do you worry about the big key? There's so many variables to take into consideration. I believe there's still 2 items in there. One of which I imagine is going to be the ice rod, because I'm seeing that Load didn't find that.
Actually, I think, well, by our count, I believe with the last item being on Argus, I think map and compass were actually on the left side of swamp.
Oh, really?
Yep, either that or the big key, which led to map or compass, was over there as well.
Oh, then I counted wrong.
But it's certainly possible that chat counted wrong, or I counted wrong. I never learned how to do math and count.
I'll be honest with you, I'm probably worse than anyone that's watching right now. I am terrible at math. You know, a 6 might as well be a 4 for me. So yeah, no, I'm an execution guy. I gamble, and thankfully that won me the race today because I did take on a different playstyle. Normally, when I'd get the myths, you know, I'd warp out. I'd go check the dwarves and take every myth location into consideration. But this time I didn't, and yeah, it paid off. I'm pretty sure this sealed my playstyle for the other for the tournament further on as well, I think.
Yeah, worth pointing out that Load had a nice double-double on his Ganon fight there, and it looks like he finishes up not too far behind you there.
That was a close race.
Yeah, get your GGs out in chat for Load, who put on a really good show here and kept the competition tight between you guys. So yeah, all in all, I'd say you ended up checking a few less overworld locations, but Load did make up a bunch of time. He took those mitts from Swamp and he just got the H out of there.
Yeah, it was the right play, definitely.
Excellent. So I believe, if I'm reading this correctly, I think your next bracket opponent, SevenS1ns, is, I think, Ninman?
Correct.
So are you gonna be doing any special training regimens? You know, are you gonna have, like, cut wood in a snowy field somewhere to some kind of 80s montage? Or, you know, have you got any special plans? You gonna be running any seeds for practice?
I'd love to do all of the above, but as it stands, I'm flying in 3 days to Minneapolis, so this is going to be an interesting week. I don't think I'm going to get much practice in, so yeah, I'm just going to have to get lucky, I guess.
Well, if there was ever a type of game to be lucky at, it's Randomizer, because good execution and good luck will take you far in a tournament, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm the living and breathing example of that.
Excellent. So, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up, SevenS1ns?
Not really. I am glad that I didn't get eliminated round 1 like last fall tournament. So, you know, let's go round 2. And yeah, GG to Load. That was a worthy opponent for sure, and a hype last race that was worth it.
Yeah, I'd say
and
after your race.
Thank you, obviously,
the
for the commentary. Sorry.
Oh no. I like to interrupt people while they're thanking me. That's how I roll, sir.
I was just gonna say thank you for the commentary and all that. Obviously, you know, it's been a blast going through the Swiss stages and now the tournament itself. It's only getting better from this point on. I feel.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for the good show. It was great to see some good play and a real tight match. We're very much bracket worthy.
Thank you. Good luck with the other commentary races. I actually have to pop out because I have to prepare my suitcase and all that for my trip. So.
Oh wow, cutting it close. So well, timing is everything. So good luck on your trip and good luck in the rest of your bracket stages, SevenS1ns. Look forward to seeing some more solid play out of you.
And anyone at STDQ, feel free to you know, say hi to me, whatever.
Excellent. Well, that about wraps it up for us here Thanks again for joining us. It has been an excellent seed, and excellent commentary and tracking, not by me, of course, but by my co-commentator, Mentos Man. And the tracking was done by Zelda Disson. So thanks again for that. Any final thoughts on this one, Mentos Man? It was a pretty awesome race.
Was a very good race, and it went through a lot of kind of unexpected turns, including Vanilla Kana Samaria and Vanilla GT Big Key. Just to wrap it up, it was a pleasure commentating with you. I believe this is the first time we've commentated together. It was quite fun.
Agreed. Well, make sure you give a follow to the Speed Gaming family of channels if you have not already. Speed Gaming 1 through 6, lots of great content, lots of great tournaments and weekly races for various games. It is a great community, and there's lots of great content being put on here. So again, if you haven't already, give those channels a follow. And that about wraps it up for us here, but there is more action on this channel coming up later, so make sure you stay tuned. And in the meantime, we will see you next mission.
Yeah, have a good one, everyone.